Have you ever noticed how worry creeps into your life like an uninvited guest, slipping into your mind when the world is quiet, when the lights are off, and when everyone else seems to be at peace? You're lying in bed, the day is over, but your thoughts are just beginning to run. Your heart beats faster. You think of bills that need to be paid, responsibilities that keep stacking higher, relationships that feel fragile, dreams that seem to slip further away with each passing day. You toss and turn, pulling the blanket over your head as if hiding will make the storm inside you disappear. But the truth is, the storm isn't outside, it's inside you. Worry is heavy. It doesn't just live in your mind, it settles in your body. Your shoulders feel tight, your chest feels heavy, your stomach twists like it's tied in knots. You try to take a deep breath, but even breathing feels difficult because your thoughts never stop racing. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if tomorrow brings bad news? What if everything I've worked for falls apart? These what ifs grow louder and suddenly they become a prison. You're alive, but you're not free to think about it. How many moments of joy have we missed because of worry? You could be sitting with your family, hearing laughter, but your mind is stuck on that deadline at work. You could be eating dinner, but instead of tasting the food, you're tasting fear. Worry doesn't just steal your sleep, it steals your present. It takes away the beauty of now and chains you to the possibility of tomorrow. And maybe you know this feeling too well. Maybe you wake up tired, not because your body is weak, but because your soul is exhausted. You've been carrying something that was never meant for you to carry alone. Worry tells you it's all on you. If you don't fix it, if you don't control it, everything will collapse. And so you live with this silent pressure that no one else sees. You smile during the day, you laugh when people are around, but when you're alone, the mask slips off. Inside, you're crumbling, but here's the truth about worry. It's a thief. It comes quietly, it disguises itself as responsibility, but it steals your joy, your peace, your hope. And even worse, worry is a liar. It tells you that you're alone, that God has forgotten you, that no one understands what you're going through. Worry whispers lies that sound like truth. That's why so many people live trapped, because they've believed those whispers for too long. I want you to imagine something with me. Picture a man carrying a backpack. At first it looks light, almost easy to carry. But inside that backpack are rocks, and every day he adds more. One rock is labeled bills, another health problems, another family struggles, another fear of the future. He keeps adding and adding until the weight becomes unbearable. His back aches, his knees tremble, his pace slows. He wants to run, but he can barely walk. That man is you, that man is me, that man is anyone who tries to carry the weight of worry on their own. Now imagine that same man meeting someone stronger, someone who says, "Give it to me, I'll carry it for you." At first, the man hesitates. He thinks, "No, I should handle this. It's my problem. I can't bother anyone else with it." But finally, he lets go. He hands over the backpack, and suddenly, for the first time in years, he feels light. He can breathe. He can walk. He can even run. That is what God wants for you. He never intended for you to carry the weight of the world on your back. The problem is, we confuse worry with control. We think that by worrying somehow, we're preventing disaster, as if the sleepless nights are keeping the world from falling apart. But let's be honest, has worry ever fixed a problem? Has it ever paid a bill, healed a sickness, or saved a relationship? No, worry has never solved anything. All it has done is weaken you, drain you, and keep you from seeing the goodness that is still in your life. You see, life is hard enough on its own. We face storms, setbacks, losses, and challenges that break our hearts. But when you add worry on top of that, it's like trying to swim with an anchor tied to your feet. You're already in deep water, and worry just pulls you lower. And the saddest part is, many of us drown not because of the storm itself, but because of the anchor of worry we refuse to let go of. Maybe right now, as you hear this, you feel like you're carrying too much. Maybe it's the stress of providing for your family. Maybe it's the fear of losing someone you love. Maybe it's the pressure of trying to succeed in a world that constantly tells you you're not enough. And deep down, you feel tired. Not just physically tired, but soul tired. Like you've been fighting battles no one else can see. Let me remind you, you are not created to live this way. God never designed your heart to be a storage house for fear. He never asked you to wake up every morning and carry the world on your shoulders. Worry is not your identity. Anxiety is not your destiny. You are more than the storms you face, and you are never as alone as worry tells you. Think about the moments when you worried the most. Did those fears turn out the way you imagined? Often, we spend days, weeks, even years, stressing over outcomes that never even happen. We suffer twice, once in our imagination and once in reality. But here's the powerful truth, if you can. Trust God with your past. If you believe He carried you through everything that could have destroyed you, then you can trust Him with your future. Every scar on your heart is proof that you've survived battles you thought would break you. And if God didn't let those storms destroy you then, why would He leave you now? Worry forgets the faithfulness of yesterday. Trust remembers it, and so, as you sit in that quiet room, staring at the ceiling, your heart beating fast, your mind running wild, I want you to pause. Take a deep breath. Hear this. You don't have to carry it anymore. The weight you feel is real. The struggles you face are real. But you were never meant to carry them alone. Worry will keep trying to convince you that you're in control. But faith whispers something different. You're not in control, but you're in God's hands. And that truth changes everything. There's a moment in life when worry meets its greatest enemy, faith. And the truth is, faith is not just a concept, it's an invitation. It's God Himself, leaning toward you in your darkest hour, whispering, "Give it to me, trust me." You don't have to carry this alone. We often think of faith as something complicated, like it's reserved for holy people in churches or for those who have everything figured out. But faith, at its core, is simple. It's not about knowing every answer, it's about knowing who holds the answers. It's about hearing the voice of God saying, "Cast your cares on me, for I care for you," and choosing to believe that those words are true, not for someone else, not for someday, but for you right now, in this very moment. But here's the challenge. Faith always begins where sight ends. As long as you can see the path, you don't need faith. As long as you have all the money, all the answers, all the solutions lined up, you don't need to trust. Faith is for the nights when you don't know how you'll make it to tomorrow. Faith is for the mornings when you wake up with tears in your eyes, unsure of how you'll face the day. Faith is for the seasons when nothing makes sense and all you can do is say, "God, I don't understand, but I trust you." Let me tell you a story. Imagine a child standing on the edge of a pool, afraid to jump. The father is in the water, arms stretched wide, saying, "Jump, I'll catch you." The child hesitates, looks down at the water, fear rising in their chest. What if he drops me? What if it's too deep? What if I sink? That's worry talking. But then the child looks at the father's eyes filled with love, eyes that have never let them down before. And with a shaky breath, the child leaps. The father catches them. The fear fades. The child laughs. That's faith. It's not the absence of fear. It's the decision to trust someone greater than the fear. That is the same invitation God gives to us every single day. He stands in the deep waters of our lives with arms open wide, saying, "Jump, trust me, I won't let you drown." The problem is, we often hold on too tightly to control. We want proof before we trust. We want the plan before we take the step. We say, God, show me how it ends, and then I'll believe you. But God says, believe me, and then you'll see how it ends. That's the nature of faith. It requires surrender before answers. Think about Abraham. He was told to leave his home, his family, his comfort, and go to a land he didn't even know. Imagine the anxiety, the doubts, the endless questions swirling in his head. But Abraham went. Why? Because he trusted the voice of God more than the fear in his heart. That's faith, moving when you don't know the destination, but trusting the one who gave the direction. Or think of Peter, stepping out of the boat in the middle of the storm. Logic told him it was impossible. The waves were too high, the winds too strong. But when Jesus said, "Come," Peter stepped onto the water. For a moment, his faith held him where physics said he should sink. That is the power of trust. When your eyes are on God, you can walk through storms that should have drowned you. But here's the reality. Faith isn't always easy. There will be moments when you pray and nothing changes, at least not immediately. Moments when the doctor's report still comes back negative. Moments when the job offer doesn't arrive. Moments when the person you love still walks away. And in those moments, worry will scream louder. See? God isn't listening. You're wasting your time. But faith whispers back, wait, trust. God's silence does not mean his absence. His delay does not mean his denial. Faith holds onto the belief that even when life is falling apart, God is still holding everything together. Let me make it even more real. Maybe you're listening right now with tears in your eyes because you've tried to fix everything on your own and it hasn't worked. You've worried yourself sick. You've begged, bargained, and broken down, and still nothing seems to change. You're exhausted, and right now, you feel like giving up. This is the very place where God leans in the closest. This is where faith becomes more than a word. It becomes a lifeline. Imagine God's hand reaching toward you, palm open, and he's saying, give it to me. Your pain, your fear, your broken dreams, hand them over. Trust me with them. The question is, will you? Faith is not about perfection. It's not about never doubting or never struggling. Faith is about direction. It's about choosing again and again to lean into God instead of leaning into fear, even when your knees shake, even when your voice cracks, even when your heart is breaking. Faith doesn't erase the storm, but it gives you peace in the middle of it. Picture a boat in the ocean. The waves are crashing, the winds are howling, but the anchor holds it steady. That's what faith is. It doesn't stop the waves from coming, but it keeps you from drifting into despair. Worry says, you're going under. Faith says, you are anchored in God's love, and he will not let you go. Some of you may be asking, but what if I trust God and I still fail? Let me tell you this, failure with faith is never final. Because when you walk with God, even your failures become stepping stones. Even your mistakes can be turned into miracles. Faith doesn't guarantee an easy life, but it guarantees you will never face life alone. I want you to hear this clearly. God is not asking for blind trust. He's asking for remembered trust. Think back to every time you thought you wouldn't make it, yet here you are. Think about the prayers you prayed that were answered in ways better than you expected. Think about the strength you found in moments. You thought you had none left. That was not an accident. That was not luck. That was God. And if he was faithful then, why would he stop being faithful now? So what does this invitation of faith really look like in your everyday life? It looks like waking up in the morning, taking a deep breath, and saying, God, today, I put it in your hands. It looks like choosing peace instead of panic when the news is bad. It looks like smiling even when things don't go your way, because you know your story isn't finished. It looks like praying not just when you need something, but because you trust someone. Faith is not the absence of problems. Faith is the presence of God in the middle of problems. And once you begin to live this way, once you begin to walk by faith instead of worry, everything changes. You sleep better. You smile more. You find strength you didn't know you had. Because you're no longer carrying it alone. So today, I want you to hear the invitation clearly. God is saying, my child, trust me, cast your cares on me, let me carry the weight you were never meant to carry. Stop clinging to fear and start clinging to me. And when you do, you will realize something powerful. Faith doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. It makes you lighter, stronger, freer. It gives you peace that no storm can shake and joy that no fear can steal. This is the invitation of faith. Simple, profound, life-changing. And it's waiting for you. Right now. Letting go. 2 simple words, but some of the hardest you will ever live. Because deep down, we all crave control. We want to manage outcomes, protect ourselves from pain, and hold tightly to the things and people we love. But here's the truth. Much of what you're holding on to is the very thing weighing you down. And until you learn the power of letting go, you'll never know the freedom of trusting God. Think about it for a moment. How often have you carried burdens long after you should have released them? You replay conversations in your mind, holding on to guilt or regret. You cling to relationships that broke your heart because you're afraid of being alone. You grip your plans so tightly that when they fall apart, you collapse with them. You refuse to release your fears because in some twisted way, worrying feels safer than trusting. But imagine this, a child is clutching a broken toy. The toy is cracked, sharp at the edges, and every time the child squeezes it tighter, it cuts their hands. The parent kneels down and says, "Give it to me, I'll fix it. I'll give you something better." But the child cries, shakes their head, and refuses to let go. That's us. We hold tightly to broken things, thinking we're protecting ourselves, while God is waiting with open hands, ready to exchange our brokenness for something whole, something beautiful. Letting go is not weakness. It's strength. It's courage. It takes incredible bravery to say, I am not in control, but I know. Who is? And yet, for many of us, surrender feels terrifying. We confuse control with safety. We think, if I just hold on tighter, maybe it won't fall apart. If I plan harder, worry more, stress longer, maybe I can prevent the worst. But here's the painful truth. The tighter you hold on, the more it hurts. Because the things of this world were never meant to carry the weight of your soul. Some of you are carrying pain from years ago. Someone betrayed you, abandoned you, hurt you. And even though time has passed, you still grip that wound. You replay it, rehearse it, live in it. You think letting go means it didn't matter, or that you're excusing what they did. But letting go isn't about excusing someone else. It's about freeing yourself. It's about saying, I will no longer let this chain drag me down. I choose peace over bitterness. I choose freedom over bondage. Others of you are clinging to dreams that God Himself may be asking you to release. And I know that's hard to hear. But sometimes the very thing you're holding on to is blocking you from what God has for you. Maybe that door closed because it wasn't your door. Maybe that person walked away because they weren't meant to walk with you into your destiny. Maybe that plan fell apart because God has something greater, something you can't see yet. Once heard it said, you can't receive with clenched fists. And it's true. As long as your hands are full of fear, full of regret, full of broken pieces, you can't take hold of what God is trying to give you. Letting go isn't about losing, it's about making space. Space for healing. Space for peace. Space for the blessings you've been praying for but haven't been able to hold. Because your hands are still full of yesterday. Let me paint you another picture. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cliff, holding onto a rope. The rope is frayed, it's cutting into your hands, but you refuse to let go because you think, if I let go, I'll fall. But what you don't realize is that below you is a net, strong, unbreakable, waiting to catch you. That net is God. You think letting go means falling, but really, it means being caught. It means discovering that you were never holding yourself. To begin with, this is where faith and surrender meet. Faith says, I don't understand, but I trust. Surrender says, I release my grip, because I know God's grip is stronger than mine. Together, they free you from the chains of worry and give you peace that control could never give. But I want to be honest, letting go isn't a one-time act. It's a daily choice. Every morning, you may have to wake up and say, God, I give you my fear again. I give you my plans again. I give you my pain again. Because the truth is, our human nature will always try to take control back. That's okay. What matters is that every time worry creeps in, you choose again to release it. Every time fear arises, you loosen your grip and say, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. Letting go also means forgiving yourself. Some of you are carrying mistakes like heavy chains, punishing yourself for choices you can't undo. You replay every failure, every wrong turn, every word you wish you could take back. And in your mind, you think, if I keep holding on to this guilt, maybe it will make me better. Maybe I deserve this weight. But that's not what God says. He says, if anyone is in me, they are a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come. Letting go of guilt isn't about ignoring your past. It's about refusing to let your past define your future. And maybe right now, as I speak these words, you feel something inside you resisting. You know, there's something or someone you need to release. A broken relationship, a dream that didn't happen, a fear about tomorrow, a mistake from yesterday, and yet you're afraid. Afraid that if you let go, you'll have nothing left. But here's the secret. When you let go of what you were never meant to carry, your hands become open to receive what you were always meant to have. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you give up. It means you stop trying to control what was never yours to control in the first place. It means you release your grip and place it in God's hands. Because His hands are bigger, stronger, and safer than yours will ever be. So ask yourself, what are you still holding on to that God has been asking you to release? Is it fear, regret, anger, the need to control? The belief that everything depends on you. Whatever it is, today is the day to lay it down. Picture this. You walk up to the cross. In your hands is a heavy stone, representing every fear, every burden, every broken piece of your heart. You've been carrying it for years. You kneel, place it at the foot of the cross, and whisper, I can't carry this anymore. I give it to you. And when you stand up, your hands are empty. Your shoulders are lighter. Your heart is freer. That's the power of letting go. And once you've tasted that freedom, once you've experienced the peace that comes from release, you'll wonder why you ever clung so tightly in the first place. Because you'll realize what you let go of was never truly yours to keep. But what God gives you in return, peace, hope, joy, purpose, that can never be taken away. So let this be the moment. Let this be the day you choose to release the broken toy, the frayed rope, the heavy stone. Let this be the day you finally open your hands and let God fill them with something better. Because the truth is simple. You'll never lose by letting go when what you're holding on to is weighing you down. You'll only gain. You'll gain freedom. You'll gain peace. You'll gain the life God has been trying to give you all along. There are moments in life when the pain feels unbearable. When doors close in your face, when people you trusted walk away, when the dream you prayed for slips right through your hands. And in those moments, the question rises almost like a scream in your chest. Why, God? Why me? Why now? Why this? We don't like unanswered questions. We don't like waiting. We don't like not knowing. We want a clear map, a straight road, a guarantee that if we work hard enough and pray long enough, everything will turn out exactly as we hope. But life rarely works that way. Life gives us twists, turns, detours, and storms. Life hands us pain we didn't ask for and battles we don't feel ready to fight. And in the middle of that pain, it's easy to believe the lie that God has forgotten us, that maybe his plan ran out, that maybe he's blessing everyone else, but somehow skipped over us. You look around and see other people succeeding, other families laughing, other prayers being answered, and you wonder, what about me? Did God leave me behind? But let me remind you of something that may shift your whole perspective. God's plan is always bigger than your pain. Think back to a time in your life when something broke your heart. Maybe it was a relationship you thought would last forever, but ended. Maybe it was a job you wanted so badly that slipped through your fingers. Maybe it was a dream that collapsed right when you thought it was about to happen. At the time, it felt like the end. You cried, you doubted, you questioned. But then maybe months later, maybe years later, you looked back and realized what you lost made room for something better. The closed door led you to an open one. The no made space for a greater yes. That's the mystery of God's plan. We don't see it while we're in it. It rarely makes sense in the moment. But pain is often the pathway to purpose. Every tear has the power to water the soil of a new beginning. Let me tell you a story. Imagine a farmer planting seeds. He takes a seed, digs a hole in the dirt, and buries it underground. To the seed, it feels like death. Darkness surrounds it. The soil presses in. I can't see the sun. I can't imagine what's coming. But hidden in that darkness, something miraculous is happening. The seed is breaking open, roots are growing deep, and soon it will push upward into the light as something entirely new. A tree, a flower, a harvest. The burial was never the end. It was the beginning. That's what pain is like. What feels like being buried is often just planting. What feels like the end is often the start of transformation. God doesn't waste your pain. He uses it. He turns wounds into wisdom, scars into strength, endings into beginnings. Take Joseph from the Bible as an example. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, thrown into prison. If anyone had the right to cry out, God, why me? It was Joseph. And yet every betrayal, every injustice, every tear was positioning him for a greater purpose. Years later, he would become a ruler in Egypt, saving not only his family but an entire nation from famine. Looking back, Joseph could say with confidence, what they meant for evil, God meant for good. His pain was the road to his destiny, and maybe right now you're living in your own prison season. Maybe you feel stuck, betrayed, abandoned, or forgotten. But I promise you, God is not done with your story. This chapter of pain is. Not the whole book. It's just part of the plot that will make the ending more beautiful. Sometimes God removes things from our lives, not to punish us, but to protect us. That job you didn't get? Maybe it would have drained your soul. That person who walked away. Maybe they weren't meant to carry your destiny with you. That prayer that wasn't answered the way you wanted. Maybe God had something better waiting just beyond the horizon. The truth is, God sees what you can't. He sees the bigger picture. While you see only the puzzle piece in front of you, he sees the entire masterpiece. You may be weeping over one chapter, But God is already writing the next one, and it's better than anything you could imagine. Let me make this personal. Have you ever walked through something you thought would break you, only to realize later it built you? Maybe the heartbreak made you stronger. Maybe the loss taught you gratitude. Maybe the failure redirected you toward a greater opportunity. We don't like the process, but we grow in the process. And often, pain is the greatest teacher. God's plan is not always painless. It's not always easy, but it is always good. His plan doesn't promise you won't cry. It doesn't promise you won't fall, but it promises you won't stay down. It promises that even the broken pieces of your life can be woven together into something beautiful. I know this is hard to accept. When you're in the middle of it, when you're in the valley, it's hard to believe there's a mountaintop ahead. When you're in the storm, it's hard to imagine the sun will shine again. But faith is about trusting that the valley is temporary, that the storm will pass, and that God is guiding you through it all. One day, you'll look back at the pain you're feeling right now and realize it was shaping you for something greater. One day, you'll see that the tears watered your strength, the loss cleared space for your blessing, the closed doors led you exactly where you were meant to be. So if you're asking, why God? Maybe the better question is, what are you teaching me? What are you preparing me for? What greater plan is hidden in this pain? Because the God who created the universe, who holds the stars in his hands, also holds your life. And he has not forgotten you. Let this truth settle into your heart. Pain is not the end of your story. It's part of it, yes, but not the whole. And in God's hands, every painful chapter can be redeemed. Every heartbreak can become a testimony. Every wound can become a well of wisdom. So when life breaks you down, when the questions don't have answers, when your heart aches with grief, lift your eyes and remember, God's plan is always greater than your pain. There comes a moment in every life when you realize the weight you've been carrying was never yours to hold. The worry, the fear, the endless what-ifs, they've lived rent-free in your heart for too long. They've stolen your sleep, your joy, your peace. But what if today could be different? What if today you chose to release it? To breathe deeply, to unclench your fists, to lift your eyes to the heavens and whisper, God, I trust you. That is where freedom begins. We spend so much of our lives trying to control the uncontrollable. We map out plans, schedule every detail, calculate every risk, and still life surprises us. Still, things fall apart. Still, we find ourselves sitting in the quiet, wondering how it all slipped through our fingers. That's because true peace was never found in control. True peace is only found in trust. Trust is not passive. It's not closing your eyes and pretending everything will magically be okay. Trust is active surrender. It's standing in the storm, rain soaking your skin, wind roaring in your ears, and choosing to believe, this storm will not destroy me. My God is bigger than this storm. Imagine a bird perched on a thin branch. The wind blows, the branch sways, but the bird does not panic. Why? Because its confidence is not in the branch, but in its wings. That's trust. When you trust God, you no longer depend on the fragile branches of life, money, people, jobs, circumstances. Your confidence is in him, and his wings never fail. But here's the beauty of trust. It doesn't just free you from fear. It changes the way you live. When you trust God, you walk lighter. You speak with more courage. You smile even when things aren't perfect. Because your hope is not in the situation, but in the one who holds the situation. Don't think of the stories you've heard of people who faced impossible odds, yet walked with uncheckable peace. The mother fighting illness who still sings. The man who lost everything yet still thanks God. The child in poverty who still smiles with pure joy. What do they have that the world can't explain? Trust. Trust that this life is not the end. Trust that God is faithful. Trust that even in the valley, He is still good. Maybe you're listening right now and thinking, that sounds nice, but how do I actually trust? How do I stop worrying when I've worried my whole life? The answer is simple but not easy. You start small. You choose moment by moment to let go. You wake up and say, God, I give you today. You face a problem and whisper, God, I don't know what to do, but I trust You'll guide me. You end the day not replaying every failure, but thanking Him for carrying you through. Trust grows with practice. Like a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes, and over time, something incredible happens. The things that once terrified you no longer hold power over you. The fears that used to paralyze you lose their grip. You realize that freedom was never found in having a perfect life. It was found in placing your imperfect life in perfect hands. Let me give you an image to hold on to. Picture yourself walking with a heavy backpack. Inside are all your worries, bills, relationships, mistakes, fears, regrets. The straps dig into your shoulders, your back aches, and every step feels harder than the last. Then you see Jesus standing. Ahead, arms open. He says, give it to me. At first you hesitate. That backpack feels like part of you. You've carried it so long that you don't know who you are without it. But finally, with trembling hands, you slip it off in place. It at His feet. And in that moment, you feel lighter than you've ever felt. You can breathe again. You can walk freely. That's what trust feels like. Release, relief, freedom. And here's the miracle. When you trust God, you don't just survive, you rise. You rise above fear, above despair, above circumstances. Trust lifts you. It carries you. It transforms your scars into testimonies. The very wounds that once made you weep become proof of God's grace. You walk through fire and come out not burned but refined. You face battles and realize they didn't break you. They built you. That is the freedom of trust. It doesn't mean you'll never face storms. It doesn't mean you'll never cry. But it does mean you'll never be shaken the same way again, because you know who holds you. You know who writes your story. You know that even when you don't understand, He does. So today, I invite you. No, I urge you, stop carrying what was never yours. Release the burden, release the fear, release the endless questions, and place it all in God's hands. Say it out loud if you need to. God, I trust You with my past, with my future, with my family, with my life. I trust You. Because the moment you do, you'll feel something shift inside you. You'll realize you are freer than you've ever been. The chains of anxiety will fall. The grip of fear will loosen. And the peace of God, a peace that surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and mind. Life will still come with challenges. But now, instead of carrying them, you'll walk with open hands. Instead of being crushed, you'll stand tall. Instead of drowning in worry, you'll rise in faith. And every step will testify to this truth. Life was never meant to be carried in your hands. It was always meant to be carried in His dog. That is freedom. That is peace. That is the power of trust. So stop worrying about life. Put your trust in God and watch how your world transforms.